Hello and welcome to the Absolute Beginner Guitar Lesson Series. My name is Oliver and today's lesson is lesson number 24. But before I go any further, I would like to do, as I always do, I would like to invite anyone who is watching one of these lessons for the first time to go back and watch the previous lessons. The lesson series is designed to take the student from absolute beginner and proceed forward. And I realize some of you watching this may be beyond absolute beginner level. However, we have been working with certain chord shapes and chord fingerings, and I think it would be very useful for you to go back and watch those lessons because you may learn some things. I also want to take a minute to thank those who have subscribed to my channel. And as I've said before, that really makes me feel good to know that there are people watching these videos and that somebody is getting something out of it. So thanks to those people, as well as anyone who has liked any of the videos. And you can always bookmark my channel page. If you find one of these videos, there's a link to the Absolute Beginner Lesson Series channel page, and you can click that link, and if you go ahead and you save that page, you can find all of the videos there, because I know these videos are are a needle in the YouTube haystack, and I want people who are interested in watching these videos to be able to find them. So I guess I have that out of the way. I hope you have your guitar out, tuned to standard pitch, and I hope you have a piece of paper and something to write with, or a notebook or binder, in case you want to take any notes, or if you have notes from previous lessons, now's the time to get those out. So if you feel the need to refer back to them, you'll have them handy. So I think we've handled all the formalities. So let's get into the lesson. The subject of today's lesson is root note D string, major and minor chord fingerings. So now we're going to start working with notes on the D string. And I want to introduce those notes in the same way that I introduced the notes on the E, B, and G strings. However, I'm not going to spend a bunch of time showing you how to find these notes by using intervals. Hopefully you understand how the notes are laid out on the guitar, so it shouldn't be too much difficulty for you to find them. But I'm just going to quickly go over the notes that are in the C major scale, starting with the open D string. Then at the second fret we have the E. At the third fret we have F. At the fifth fret we have G. And at the seventh fret we have A. Up to the ninth fret we find B. At the 10th fret we have C. And at the 12th fret we have D. And if you want to go a little bit beyond the 12th fret, you could find the E note up at the 14th fret. So these are the notes that I'm going to be working with to introduce these chords. And I have a couple different chord fingerings that I'm going to show you. And unlike other videos where there's a specific video for the major chord fingerings and another specific video for the minor chord fingerings, we're just going to show everything in this lesson to try to sort of speed this up. And I want to start with the major chords, and the first chord I want to start with is the E major. So we can find that root note at the second fret of the D string. So we have the E note. And these are going to be chords that are played on three strings. We'll be using the D string, the G string, and the B string. So we have the root note at the 2nd fret of the D string, the E note. And I'm playing that with my middle finger. So on the G string, I'm going to play the note at the 1st fret of the G string. And I'm going to use my index finger for that. And finally, on the B string, I'm going to play the open B note. So this is our E major chord fingering. And it's an open string fingering because we have the open B string in it. So it's specific to this E major chord where our E root note is at the 2nd fret of the D string. So this is our E major chord fingering. And I'm just going to go over that one more time. We start with the root note on the D string, and we use our middle finger to play that note at the 2nd fret. So we have the E, and then we have the note at the 1st fret on the G string, and that note is actually G sharp. And then finally we have the open B string. So the three together we get, and that is our E major chord. So next chord I want to show you is the F major chord. And this chord fingering is going to be a closed fingering, so it will be movable. I'm not going to take the time to demonstrate the chord at every note of the scale as we move up. I think you understand the principle behind movable chord forms. So I also believe that you can find the root notes as needed. So we're going to start with the root note F, which is at the 3rd fret on the D string. And on the G string, what we're going to use, and I'm using my ring finger to play the note F, the root note. And on the G string, I'm going to play the note at the 2nd fret of the G string. And I'm going to use that with my middle finger. And on the B string, I'm going to play the note at the 1st fret of the B string. And I'm going to use my index finger. So we have the notes F, A, C. And we have the F major chord. So I'll just review that again quickly. The root note F is at the 3rd fret on the D string, and then the note we're playing on the G string is 1 fret lower than the root note, and that's at the 2nd fret. And then the note we're playing on the B string is 2 frets lower than the root note, so that is at the 1st fret. So we have our F major chord. And this introduces our movable major chord form. So from here we can just move it and we can find G major, A major, B major, C major, D major, and if we want to go up to the 12th, 14th fret, we can play the octave to the E major chord that we use with the open string fingering. So that is our major chord fingerings. So on to the minor side of things, we have 2 fingerings. So let's start with E minor. So I'm going to play the root note E at the 2nd fret of the D string, and I'm going to use my middle finger to play that note. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the G string open, and I'm going to play the B string open. So we have our middle finger playing the root note at the 2nd fret of the D string. That's the E note. Then we have the open G string and the open B string. And we have E minor. And again, this is an open string fingering. So we're going to use this specifically for the E minor chord where our root note is at the 2nd fret on the D string. And from here, I want to move to the F minor chord. And this is going to introduce a closed fingering. So I'm going to use my middle finger to play the root note F at the 3rd fret on the D string. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to play at the first fret on the G string and at the first fret on the B string. And I'm going to use my index finger to bar the G and the B strings at the first fret. So I have F, A, C, or excuse me, F, A flat, and C, which is an F minor chord. So this establishes our movable minor chord form. So from here, we can just move our root notes. As long as we have the root note underneath our ring finger on the D string, we'll have a minor chord. So we have F minor, G minor, A minor, B minor, C minor, D minor, and if I move up past the 12th fret to the 14th fret E, I have the octave E minor. So those are our those are our chord fingerings. So you are tasked with learning the two fingerings for the major chords and the two fingerings for the minor chord. Now, there's something else that happens when we start to include our D string. We open up another set of fingerings that have root notes on the G string. Because the fingerings that we've been playing with the root notes on the G string can be inverted. So I just want to show you this real quick. If I play my, let's go to our root note G string chord fingerings. And if I play my major chord fingering, I'm using the G, B, and E strings. However, what I can do is I can use the D, G, and B strings. Now my root note still stays the same, and it's at the second fret of the G string. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the note that's at the second fret of the D string. So now we're playing at the second fret of the D string, the second fret of the G string, and the second fret of the B string. And now we have another A major chord fingering. And this one is just an inversion of the last fingering that we had. So we have all three fingers playing at the same fret. And what I'm doing right now is I'm using my index finger on the D string, my middle finger on the G string, and my ring finger on the B string. And if this works for you, that's fine. There are other ways that you can play the chord. I first learned this chord out of a book years ago that had just a bunch of chord fingerings in it. And the way that I learned it with the middle finger playing the playing the note at the second fret on the D string. My index finger played the root note at the second fret of the G string, and my ring finger played the note at the second fret of the B string. So this is another fingering. However, there are no real hard rules about how you do this. The important thing to understand is that by adding in the note on the D string, we find another inversion of the A major chord. Only now we're using the D string, the G string, and the B string. And this, of course, is a movable chord form. So as long as you remember, our root note is still on the G string. Now we have B major, then we have C major, D major, E major, F major, G major at the 12th fret. And if we wanted to, we could carry this up further past the 12th fret. As the frets start to get fret spacing starts to get a little bit narrower, it becomes a little bit more of a bear to try to keep your fingers in between the frets. However, this does work fairly well till you get pretty far up the neck. So that's what I wanted to show you, was that by adding in the D string, we now have another root note G string major chord fingering. And we can do the same thing with the minor chord fingering. So let me just go to the root note G string A minor fingering. We have the our middle finger playing the root note A at the 2nd fret, and we have our index finger playing at the 1st fret on the B string, and then we have the E string open. And this is how we've been playing our A minor chord. However, we can add the note that is on the D string. And really the note that we're gonna play on the D string is going to be at the same location fret-wise as the root note. So the root note is at the 2nd fret of the G string. So therefore I'm going to add the note at the 2nd fret of the D string. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my fingering a little bit to do this. Instead of using my middle finger to play that root note A at the 2nd fret of the G string, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch, and I'm going to use my ring finger to play that note. And then I'm going to reach up with my middle finger, and I'm going to grab that note at the 2nd fret on the D string. And now we have our A minor chord. And this is a movable chord because it's closed. So we can move this up. We just have to remember that our root note is still on the G string. So we have A minor, B minor, C minor, D minor, E minor, F minor, and G minor. And we can go up past the 12th fret if we feel that that's necessary. So we have, basically, by adding in the D string, we've created another way that we can play our major and minor chords that have their root notes on the G string. I hope that's not confusing. I just need you to understand that all we're doing is we're playing an inversion of the chords that we learned originally. And in order to do that, we're using the D string, and we're adding that note in, and we get the inversion. So that's the basic fundamental information of the lesson, and hopefully I didn't give you too much information. The main thing I wanted you to learn was that we have some fingerings that we can use to play major and minor chords with root notes on the D string. And also the addition of the D string allows us to start inverting other chords that we've been playing. And that's what we did when we took our root note G string major and minor chords, and we essentially added the note that's on the D string. And that created another inversion of the chord. So hopefully you'll put in some time with this. Go back and watch this if you need to, so that you can learn these chord fingerings. And make sure you understand them. And once you understand them, now you can pretty much start applying everything else that you've been doing to these chord fingerings. We can begin to work with the scale tone chords for the key of C major. And we can also begin to work with scale tone chords for any other major key that you may desire, as long as you know the notes and the scale tone chords that we need to play. And finally, we can start applying these fingerings to our chord progressions. So that's about it for now. When I come back, we're going to start working with chords that are on 4 strings. So now this is going to really start to sort of expand our sonic range by adding in that 4th string. The chords will become fuller sounding and maybe more familiar to your ear. So put in your time, put in your work, and I hope to see you there. Peace.